So I'll just use that board temporarily there, and then you can have that one, somebody else can have both of them.
Which one here?
Right, so my students have now arrived and setting up. We've been through looking at photographs on the computer and they've all chosen what they want to do. But I am going to demonstrate this little one of the flowers with water and pastel, just water and pastel. I haven't got my acrylic inks here. I would have used acrylic inks with these. I think I can get away with just my pastels. So they're going to watch me do that first, and then we will see them doing their own work afterwards. My set of brushes there, and a set of Unison pastels, and a piece of knot paper in this case, SEA practice paper, there. So we're going to do this photograph and use water with the pastels. You could paint, I mean I'm not going to even bother drawing it out because of speed today, but we could paint this in with watercolours or use acrylic inks first of all to get the vibrancy and the brightness. I should be able to use my pastels here. So I'm going to work from my mid-tones and into my darks, and then pull out the lighter colours, go from the mid-tones upwards, so mid-tones down to the darks, and then come from the mid-tones out to the lights afterwards. I shall leave some of these areas a little bit lighter to start with, just as I map out, but the idea is today to show you how the pastels will actually mix with water. Now some of you have already brought up this business of which pastels. The higher quality the pastel, usually the softer they are. So the Unisons, the SEA and so on, a little bit more expensive, the Unisons and the SEA, but they're a good quality and they mix with water beautifully. The inscribes, I will use some today, but they are slightly harder. They don't mix quite as well, but they do these lovely garish colours of sweeties, which the other colours don't do. So they're very useful to you. You haven't wasted your money on them. They're very useful. Once we've put pastel on and it's dry with water, it is fixed. Now pastel works by it being pigment held together with gum arabic, and like watercolour, as soon as we wet it, it blends like watercolour. But if you touch pastel, if you spray it with fixative, if you use it with water, if you blend it, it deadens it. The idea is that the little crystals of pigment reflect light. So all of your last coats of pastel want to be fresh and put on and not touched again. So the old English block and blend method, the old English block and blend method was to blend all of your picture in all over the pastel paper, dead, and then work up the coats over the top alive afterwards and not touch them. Now I don't even spray mine because it can deaden them down. The highlights go down about 2 tones. As long as you brush them well off. Remember that the undercoat with water is fixed anyway. Never put your pastel face down in a mount or a frame because the dust can come off. Bash them well before you mount them. Leave them on their backs or at least vertically, even then you can get it along the bottom. But normally I don't have a problem, and I move them all over the world. If you want to store your pastels, put them between a newspaper or better still greaseproof paper. You see in the ombre pads they've got sheets of the greaseproof paper, haven't they? It doesn't smudge them. So little tips as we go along, okay? Right, all I'm going to do, just quickly, I'll just map out, it doesn't matter what I do it with, I'll just map out the basic shapes of what I want, so just so I know where I'm going with them. Very, very loosely, as I say, we're just going to have fun building it up as I go along. So straight away, just for fun, I'm going to show you the difference between the two pastels, just using... Now, if I put water on, it's going to go with the pastel shows about 2 tones darker straight away, but it dries lighter. So remember what you're putting on is going to be lighter, okay? I tend to put the pastel on and then the water afterwards, but you can put the water first and actually blend things around. So just for that bit of fun, I'm going to put on some, this is the inscribe, okay, this is the cheapy pastel,
Like
and I'm using a textural paper. Now really I should be using a smoother paper for this job, because obviously I want more detail, but let's not worry about that. Right, straight away then, I'm going to use almost entirely one brush today.
Should you use a smooth paper then for pastels?
No, it depends what texture you want. If you wanted the snow, if you wanted the beach, because you get the texture of the snow. But if you wanted fine detail like this, that would be working. The orange peel would be working against you. Same with pastel papers. There's 2 sides to pastel paper. You want not the orange peel side, it's the smoother side, and in some pads they're the wrong way up. So don't be fooled by that. The bite is not the texture. The bite is the surface of the paper. The texture is not the bite. So the orange peel will work against you. Don't use it. Use the smoother side. Right, Take some water,
I've always done the opposite.
and yeah, and I mean this is hard pastel, so it's not blending as well as soft pastel well, but you see it's starting to blend already.
Yeah.
Now, get my fingers into that, and you can start to move it around just like you can oil paint. Look at this, look. You can move it around with your fingers. You can draw with it, you can work into it. Immediately, it's plastic, and it's not what you'd expect from pastel.
Yeah.
You've already got a texture.
Yeah.
I've already got something happening. I can start to
Yes.
draw my flowers in with my fingers,
Yeah.
look, straight away. Yeah, here.
You've got your light and dark already.
Yes.
So that surprises you straight away.
Yeah, it
yeah?
does.
Right, now while it's still wet I can work into it. It's going to dry lighter than this, remember. So I'm going to take some slightly darker pastel, and I'll use my fingers again while it's still wet. A bit mucky some of these, but you can see how we're already building up the shape of those flowers. I'm working from light straight away in this case. I'm not even
That's
going
the
over
soft
dark.
pastel you're using.
These are the hard pastels.
All of them.
Yeah, I'm still using the hards
Yeah.
because I haven't got these really bright colours in the expensive ones. I can go back in with the water whenever I like and blend. So I can do brush strokes, I can do textures, and I can actually draw them out. So I can take this anywhere I want, elsewhere, and paint with them.
Yeah, amazing.
And people are just, you get tied down, you get bogged down with what teacher says, or what, you know, I've had students come to me, they want to paint looser. And I've had them doing these sorts of loose work, and they've got halfway through, and I said, just stop and take a look at what you've done. Oh wow! Because they've loosened up and hadn't realised. But, you know, or they've come to, oh, my teacher said you only have to do washes left to right, and you only have to, so I said, no, whatever works, do it. There are many things that won't work. Look, I can just take that across there, look. Now, that's the dark, but if I go back, I can put, when it's dry especially, I can put lighter at the top, so that will dry lighter, but better to wait till it dries a bit more, alright? Now, these very light ones I'm going to put in with soft pastel later. This was just to show you how immediately we can start to blend. If I take some soft white pastel now here, you can hardly see it there, but it's going to become semi-opaque because we're actually working with an opaque medium. Look, it's semi-opaque, it's almost transparent,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
And that's with the white now into it. So I can work that white in already. I can use my finger whenever I want. And it's drying very quickly. The texture's working against me a little bit, but not to worry. Now let's start to go to some of the softer pastels. Let's look at some of this sort of mid-grey pink here. See how that softer pastel goes on? It's
Yes,
so
yeah.
much softer,
Yeah.
so much nicer. But the inscribes are alright, but it is worth investing in. And again, I can give you sheets. If you want any questions after the lesson, if you want to come back to me by email, my email address is on my website. You can come back to me and I'll send you sheets of the recommended, all of this series. The whole, with the pastels I can send you the whole sheet. Right, so we work out that. I should have more darks in here. Now, let's start to work in some of these darks and mid-tones. I'm going to take a mid-grey here now, a mid-grey green. And it's a nice soft one, and we'll work that straight in. I've still got the light colour on my brush, and I would clean brush it. Now I can use this to do the texturing. Look at the leaves in between already. I like these oval mops. This is a Pro Art, large Pro Art oval mop, because you can go thick or thin. Now you know Ron Ransom's work. So Hake brush and a rigger, he does this entire painting. I can do entire paintings with a Hake or this and a rigger. Never mind. Okay, back to this. And we'll start working these little colours in between. Now I'm working loosely, and you know the technique I told you just now. If we start loose, we can finish tight. If we start tight, we can't go back to being loose very easily, can we? So I'm starting loosely, and I can go tighter and tighter and tighter as I work into this. Now this is an SAA pastel. So there's not a lot of difference. Fractionally harder than the unisons, but look, it blends just as well. And you can do dry brush and all sorts. Look. So I'm going to deliberately do a vignette around this and dry brush into that. I probably won't need to do the whole picture demo here today, because I know you want to be see this, you'll be wanting to get on. These are lovely. And this is again, I'm using the SAA ones again. This is the deep purple. I advise them to do this because they have a full range, but you can't really paint any painting without the darks as well as the lights. So I'm starting to work into this just with pastel marks now. Again, back in with the water, and we'll blend those in. Tip of the brush just to get the texture of the petals coming in there, look. Right up and through, a bit of dry brushwork out again, blending those colours together, right down through here. Now I need some blues into there. They've got a deep blue, so let's see what their deep blue is like. Now I don't want that, it's not. I'm going to add some more vibrant blue at the top of that. Now remember that we're painting with rough next to smooth, light next to dark, and warm next to cool. That's our main armoury. So if we put one colour next to another, it affects it. Constable did this. In almost every one of Constable's landscape paintings there's a little red figure. Why? Because it's the opposite in the colour circle to green. If I want something to be warmer, I put something cool next to it. Look how that makes that pink warmer.
Yeah.
So it's, if we're doing a sunrise, this happened to me once with this particular thing, and I couldn't get it warm enough, and I kept plastering on more and more of the warms, and I couldn't get it right. And I realised, what am I doing wrong? Well, you idiot, Peter. You don't put more warm on, you put more cool on to bring the warms out. So I'm putting this cool into here now, deliberately to bring out those warms. If I wanted to do a rape field, what colour would I use against the rape field to make the yellows of the rape stand out? Do you know your colour circle, ladies?
Dark green.
Yellow and purple.
Oh, purple.
So I put a more purple sky in, and I would start to get these little leaves. See these leaves now? I can start to do brush strokes for the leaves, like the Chinese brushwork. We can start to actually work this out. Right, now you can watercolour effects with pastel.
Yeah, amazing.
So I'm just going to do this corner here. Now we need that to dry a bit now before I'm almost at the stage now, because I've done enough here to be able to start working pastel up. I'm going to come right down here into that bit of dry brushwork again there. Just like watercolour, it's lovely, isn't it? These brushes, these oval mops are lovely because you can use them both loose and tight. It's up to you. Come right down to here for the minute. It's always happy to demonstrate because it gets me painting again, but you guys want to get going.
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
It's just good watching.
Up into there. Now we'll start to add some greens into it. Once we get this colour on, it's a lot easier. You need to get rid of white. You need to get rid of the white canvas. You need to get rid of the white as soon as you can.
Totally different to watercolour.
Isn't it totally?
It's the best of both worlds.
Well, the thing is, you've got to keep your whites, haven't you, with watercolour?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you get a failed watercolour, again, if you look back at this new series I'm doing, I'm going to show you what happens. But if you get a watercolour that's overworked, it's easy to happen, you can bring it back with highlights and pastel. You can put them over the top of the watercolour without losing it. And you can even blend it into the watercolour with the water.
Yeah.
People don't realise what they can do.
Yeah.
Right, so let's really get that, to lose some of that texture in there.
A few overworked, haven't we?
Yeah.
In our time.
Well, you might, if you've got them stuck in a drawer and you haven't bothered to throw them away,
Yeah.
sometimes you can wash them off, but other times you'll want to
Yeah, use them.
Just
use them with pastel and bring them out again, yeah. Start bringing in some turquoises now. Really look for these colours, one colour against another.
Oh, lovely.
And now the painting, the pastel's just starting to dry, look. So I'm going to use the texture of the paper here and start to do I've done my darks, I can bring the mid-tones over this and I can pull this picture out from the surface of the paper. Again, I can come back at any time and work into that. And all of these brush strokes that I'm doing now are going to be fixed. Right, that is dry. So let's come back into that with these even the harder pastels and really start now to get the effects of the flowers. I can come across these bits, not quite dry yet, but I can cross them now and get the petals to start to come out into there, look.
Oh, yeah.
By pushing harder. Just push hard to get pure colour coming. Isn't it fun? You know, this is what art should be about, isn't it? Fun. You can see the whole thing starting to come out of the paper. I want to go lighter down here, so I'll take my white again. Bring the whites back again.
That bit.
Eh?
You don't have to do the entire thing, do you?
No. Very nice.
You could just choose a little piece out of that.
Yeah. That's so good.
We can get darker into it.
Goodness, yes.
You can see that the flowers, there's something to happen, look, you see?
Yeah, very much so.
And the difference in hues. Have you ever met this bloke called Hugh? He's got lots of different colours, you know, as Hugh. And the beauty of Hugh is that in every single colour there is a warm and a cool. Do you know that?
No.
Every single colour.
Oh, yeah,
Actually, that's
yeah.
now I'm putting on a cool hue
Cool
of red.
Right,
Yeah?
yeah.
This is cool hue. Next to this cool hue, I'm going to put some warm hue, and that'll make the cool seem cooler. Look at that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So the cool seem cooler now. And next to that, I'm going to put another warm, but it's going to be slightly darker warm, and that makes those brights seem even brighter. Really look for colour. Now let's start on our bit more of the turquoises. We've got a lot of turquoise. In leaves there's a lot of blues, there's a lot of cools. We don't realise how many, but don't forget that wherever there is light, there is colour. This is why the Impressionists did not use pure white and they did not use black. They painted into pure white, because if there's white, there must be light shining on it. If there's black, there must be light shining on it. So I make my blacks in paint from Prussian blue or deep blues and browns. I only use black as a more design piece on those big roller ones. If I've got white, normally it won't be pure white, it'll be a colour. So if I, for instance, take now some very, very light greys and whites, put them into here, it'll start to play the cools against the warms. So some of these cools in here, you wouldn't think there was blue in there, but there is. So I go back to my turquoise again, and we start to bring out these bits of turquoise, and there's ultramarine blues and all sorts going on in here. So here's our turquoise going on amongst this to bring this out. I haven't used any greens yet, and I'm going to. And I'm going to go right down to some beautiful ultramarine blue and have that coming in amongst this. Look how that brings these warms out, the blue and the cool and the warm. It brings out this lovely vibrancy. Isn't that gorgeous? The colours we can get just dragging it across here. Now let's come up to our greens. We'll come to a...
And you're not actually doing any defined shapes?
No, this is it, I don't have to. Because if you put the right colours in the right places and the right shapes. So I start off with an effect of light. Get all my main tones in, and then I get more and more detail. I don't start with a detail and paint around it. I'm not going to have a twig and then paint the sky behind.
No.
I'm going to put the sky and put the twig on top. So let's take some deep greens now. And you see now that little subtlety of green coming in against the reds. It's a very deep, dead green, this one.
It's like a moss green, isn't it?
Yes, it's a warm green, isn't it? We've got cool greens in there. Right, come down through here, down through there. Now, I'm going to start on my lighter greens. Just little touches, that's all I need, because there's not many here, look. Little touches of the green coming in. And that piece, it's almost done. I mean, it's so rapid. I can produce a sunset in 10 minutes. On this size paper,
Wow.
I can do, one every 10 minutes as the sun goes down in Scotland. And you can see them on my site. So down here we've got these much lighter greens coming up, right through into warm and cool yellows. These are warm yellow, chrome or cadmium yellow. I've got some brighter greens in there. So they play against that. Some of these bits of light coming in here and around there. You get the idea? So if you're doing a sea scene or whatever else, we're going to paint all the background mid-tones in first and work down towards the darks. Then we're going to come up. It's nice to get some of the lighter colours in. If you've got clean colour and you want clean colour and you've got white paper, then I would advise doing those lighter colours first of all as well, like I did with these creams.
Yeah.
If you had a turquoise wave going over here, it would be difficult to put it over a dark.
Yeah.
So put your really clean light colours in first and then work them up. So let's go back into here again. We're going to start bringing these leaf coming out here, and they go to cooler greys and right through there. Right, now here I've got a dark. I put those colours in on the white. Let's see what happens if we can put these in now. Not quite so easy. Let's see if we can put them in over the... And yes, we can. Look, it's fixed. That is now dry, and it is fixed. So they will go in, but the softer the pastel, the more easily they go in. Now these, I'm having to push and twist to get clean marks. I don't want to touch these again. I don't want to touch those again. I want to leave them alone. These are the soft pastels, and look how easily they go on. So you can see the beauty of the quality.
Yes.
That's really all I need to do for the moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because now you can get on. You can see the ways of working backwards and forwards, and how we can bring one colour up over another. We can use them like watercolour, or we can put the darks over the lights over the darks. The world really is your oyster with this. You can go any direction you want. Now, finally, we're going down to our deepest colours. Let's just see what happens when I really, at the end of my painting, I would come in with my darkest colours. I come in with these real darks. And look at the difference they will make at the very end. It really pulls it together. Okay, ready for some fun then?
Yeah.
Yep.
We are.
You know the sea pipe one?
How do
So
you
I got started, and the first problem we found was that some of the paper wasn't of a good quality and went mushy, so some of the people have had to change over papers. But they're going in, and of course the other thing was hard pastels, that the cheaper pastels will simply won't go onto the wet paper, they'll tear the paper. So it's important that for this method we're mainly using soft pastels. That's nice and strong. When I fill
Well, that's
the effect of the palm leaves there by mixing with water and bringing the brush tip out to give the textures. Well, you'll find that with the rollers too when we do that. It's going to be totally new for you, but it'll all work out in the end. That's better. Behind. Well, you've got some colours going too,
even
yeah.
the sky?
It's totally... I go to bed without it. So we're here for lunch with this.
It was devastating.
Was it? Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, yeah. It's just through here. And that's... Are you enjoying it then?
We are.
Just a toast to the new art group here, yes? Cheers, ladies.
Cheers. Quick wet brain.
That's remembering, isn't it?
That's just looking... You must be pleased now with that.
I am.
Smashing that now. Film. So, been good?
Yeah, excellent.
You're going to come back and see me again?
Yes.
All these lies coming out now. Oh, you got it all over your face here. Look, you've been painting yourself. Great stuff. No, I think you've done ever so well. In the short time we had an interesting lunch. We can organise that another time. But successful results, certainly. Well, it's a day later, and this morning I'd like to finish off this little demo I started for the group yesterday. Put some water on here just to get the pastel started in this case, so I want quite strong whites. Now this will be an interesting time to show you this in a way, because here we've got an area that's already dry, so if I take my whites to go back onto there, they'll go on fairly easily, look, now that they're nice and dry. I'm going to put some whites on, twist it and turn it like that to get these lighter colours. So I'm deliberately using it like a watercolour technique now, but actually mixing it with some of that white from before. Give myself some of these cools. Because I'm working on a rougher paper, a knot paper, I'm unable to just make clean, sharp marks because it's going to be textured because of the paper. So I'm going to need to use the brush here to get these leaf shapes again. Feel the rain on the conservatory roof again. It was beautiful earlier on. It's just so changeable at the moment. Very deep greens through yet to bring out these lights. Some warmer, darker greens here and there. Now, what have we got? Otherwise, more turquoises that we haven't quite hit. Just finish off now with a few cool colours here and there. Very, very light blue here I want to add into here. Dropping the darks, just one or two little points of dark I want to make into the picture to really bring out the lighter colours behind. So I'm going to put a little bit of black into here, very, very deep and warm, just to push these colours back a little bit. And I've made them vibrant with a very deep blue. And I want that blue to show rather than... That's it. It just gives it that slight edge with those darks in. Just that little bit more three-dimensional. There we go. Well, there we are then. Rain in the background and a beautiful little scene of rhododendrons here, done by using the pastels and water. And you wouldn't know that wasn't a standard pastel, looking at that close up on watercolour paper. One little pastel watercolour for you, and we'll move on now back into the watercolour demos we've been doing on these smaller sheets, and then finally into the larger two final works. Well, I've just finished that pastels and water one on the flowers, and I want to just move on while I'm doing flowers to the wet next to wet and blending with one of these pansies. So again, it's watercolour technique. It's only pure watercolour now, and we're going to be working wet into wet, wet next to wet. We're working from our lightest to our darkest, so let's get on with it. We've only got a couple of hours of daylight left this afternoon. It's still quite low light here. I'm going to use a large round brush rather than a mopped for this particular one. Photograph set up there, brushes over here, palette there, and I'll keep as close to the painting as I can for you to show the brush strokes, work to the left of it, and hopefully you'll glean something from the experiences of this. So, working from the lights to the darks, here's our lightest ones here, and they only need to be very, very finely done. So if I take some oleolin yellow there and just wet that in at first, just to get a very, this is a cool yellow, the oleolin yellow, just to get a very light tinting only. Dropping in, or glazing in if you like, these thin washes, not glazed yet because they aren't going over something else, but they're very thin, fine washes. Just using a little bit of cerulean blue now, but again these are very, very fine tints because I'm just working up some of the shadows on these. There, that's cooler behind there. Got to really observe. So we're working not only with colour but with tone as well now. Now, down to my cobalt violet, which is another beautiful colour that I'm very fond of. It's a colour you can't make, so you need it in your palette. And especially with something like these pansies, we're going to need these very light coming delicately into here. Just while it's still wet, just work in some of these darker tones that are around here fractionally, once they subtly come out. Right, next. The next lightest colours from here are the light greens and yellows. So let's just start with, we're going to almost have to paint petal by petal on this. So let's start with these greens here. Again, I'm going to use my Aureolin yellow and paint quite thinly first. We've got a big leaf here, and we've got a smaller one just sticking out here, right up next to this, and here. And that's about that for that lighter green. So all our very light, delicate tints first. So we'll take some sap green there and add a bit of ultramarine to it. We've got some harder edges and lighter edges. I want a little bit of blue going on, reflecting into this, so I'm going to take some cerulean blue, really looking for these colours, and just drop that cerulean blue in, and leaving the light shapes behind, but still fairly soft at the moment, and I'm going to deliberately come out harder in just a moment with this. Alright, now I'm going to go darker and darker on this. While it's still wet at the moment, I'm going to go right down in my greens with some Prussian. Comes up dark underneath there. We'll see why a little later. That one comes in to here, darker around there, letting it softly come into those wets. Right down round here into there, and again we'll find these leaf forms, greens. Now around here, really dark now, not quite sharp edged yet, because these darks are going to come very, very strong just down into here. So really dark down into here now, letting these other colours stand out against them. Just make sure you put them in the right places, because you'd feel a right prat if you suddenly found you'd painted a dark into where a light should be, wouldn't you? Blending that in down into there, and getting the illusions of these leaf shapes gleaming out from behind. And as this leaf dries, I can start to drop in a few little details of these, the way that these serrations happen in the leaf. And there we go. We've just worked out those leaves wet into wet. Now I've got some hard edges here that I don't want. I'm just going to soften those a bit with some tinted water, the illusion of some leaves there. That's that bit actually finished, probably until the very end. I just want to put a little bit of detail in. Get the idea of that. Do we have any more of that going on? Yes, we do. I've got to come up here where these very light leaves are. Really lovely, deep, rich darks that we can use subtly and carefully to pick up on these. Just indicate more leaves there, where they come round. Now this is getting drier, so I can come into here again with some of these serrations in the leaf. Just make them a little bit sharper now to bring that leaf forward a bit. See how lovely that is? These are quite small pieces of paper really, so you're seeing this in some ways quite crudely, because you know, when you're further away from a piece, obviously they look much finer than when you're close up to them. Let's look at the yellows around here now and the differences in those. And again I'm going to start with my cool yellow, my Aureolin yellow, which is right up and through here. Now I'm going to go to a much stronger yellow, which is my chrome yellow. I'm still working quite heavily into this. My chrome yellow wants to come. I'll just show you what I'm going to do with these, with this wet into wet in a moment, we can use the effect of wet into wet to really see how that warm against that cool yellow works now. The way that the purple can be dropped into here and just spread out a fraction. Let's hope this works. This is what I wanted to really show you. Really dark purple now here, and I want to just come into the middle of this. You see how that spreads out. I've got to be careful because if the paint is too wet in the centre or on the edges, this is not going to work. But if I just tickle that out, we get this beautiful effect of it spreading out into the... You can do this beautifully with irises as well. So while it's still wet, we'll just come out into there and let those pansies do controlled accident, and we just have to hope that the controlled accident doesn't go too far. I want sharp edges on this bit, so it's only these outer bits that I just want to let this happen in. So it's not going to be exactly the same as the photograph, but that is what we're trying to do anyway. This is the worry that they might spread too far. But I'll lift them out in a minute, show you how we can bring some of it back again if we make a mistake. Let that dry down, because I want to go even darker into some of those yet, with some slightly stronger lines. I'm going to do the same here, but here I'm going to do it by using water at the edges. This petal, for instance, here, and I'm going to wet that up and round just the shape that I want it to go into. So I've only wet that little portion there. Now if I take my purple now and drop that into there, look what happens. And it's only going to go in where I've put the water. It can't spread further than that because the water won't allow it to, will it? So again I'm going to do the same here, but this time I'm only going to just put the water around the outer edge. So that's dry in the centre, so let's see the difference in that now, shall we? Very strong here, down here where the hard edges are. So it's a sharp hard edge, then it hits the water, and as soon as it hits the water it starts to spread. So around to that water like that, just going to drag it out slightly in places, we get that lovely effect. Down to this one. Same thing again, just going to put the water where I require it, and once I've done that I can come back and make the paint heavier in the centre. I'm going to do this in a moment anyway with the deep blue. Purple will seem even lighter because it's darker against it. And while I've got the indigo on my brush, so when you've got something on your brush, use it. I need to use some of that here in the centres of these. One petal over another. Right, lights towards darks. Back to here again. These have dried out enough now for me to work the harder colours on, so again I'm going back to my rose. I'm to try and get this done to show you as much as I can. That rose comes on round here, right around that edge, down. It's the same here. There, and there's a bit of it going on right round. It's all done down here already. Now I'm going to come back here and put some more yellow around there. We'll see why in just a moment. I don't want it spreading right into here, so I'm just going to put yellow around this outer edge here, just around here. Now I'm going to take my purple again and come in around this purple like this, really deep and strong, and it's going to spread down just into the edge of this yellow, but it cannot go into the middle of the flower because I've only painted wet edges like that. Go lighter whenever we like, so I can put some more green into there. Now, a little bit of blending again, soft water, clean water on this edge, and we'll let those colours just trickle out there like that. Same over here, we'll let the colours just trickle into some clean water. Just lift it out a bit. Now if I dry my brush I can lift out some of the effects of the petal. There, does that give you an idea how we can use these? So I'll just finish off with a bit of tinting here and there just to make one petal come underneath another. A little more. I don't need to do too much more now. Using pure watercolour and wet into wet, wet net to wet techniques.